Once we understand the relationship between variable cost, fixed cost, sales, volume, contribution margin, we can use these relationships to do cost, volume, profit analysis for an organization. So let's work through a couple of examples of the things that we have just discussed using Playtime Parks. Playtime, as your text says, is competing with Water World with some different rides. They sell their tickets for, let's look at our information here. They sell their tickets for $60 a person. So if we need to determine sales, $60 per the number of people who enter our park. Our variable costs are $24 per person. So if we go back to our discussion on variable costs, remember per unit variable costs stay the same, $24 a person, regardless of whether we have 100 people or 150 people in the park. It's $24 a person. The more people that we have in the park, the more our total variable cost will be. Okay. We also know that our fixed costs in this particular situation are $226,800 a month. Remember our discussion on fixed cost. In total, they stay the same. It doesn't matter if there are 100 or 150 people in the park, our fixed costs are $226,800 a month. However, the more people that we move through the park, the less our fixed costs are per person. So with those relationships, it asks us to calculate the number of tickets. Okay, let's make some decisions. How many tickets do I have to sell, okay, for this park to simply break even? Now realize that's not all we want to do, but at a minimum, I know that I have to sell X number of tickets before I can at least cover the cost that I'm incurring to run the park. So let's go back to our contribution margin approach, which is what we will use throughout this chapter. We need to cover our fixed cost plus a target profit. Well, our fixed cost, $226,800. What is our target profit when we're trying to break even? 0. Break even is when my total sales cover my total cost. My target profit is 0 for break even. So remember, we want our contribution margin. This is our formula. I'm dividing by contribution margin per unit. Okay, why is that important? I need enough contribution margin to cover all of my fixed cost plus my target profit, which is 0 here for break even. If I'm trying to calculate break even in units, I simply divide by contribution margin per unit. Okay, this is important. I'm trying to calculate break even in units, so I'm going to divide by contribution margin per unit. How do we calculate contribution margin? Simply sales less variable cost equals contribution margin. Okay, so I know that I need to cover fixed cost of $226,800 with a contribution margin of $36 per ticket. I need to sell 63,000 tickets to break even. Okay, now we can check this to be sure that our math is right, and as an accountant we're sometimes kind of fidgety that way. We want to make sure our numbers are correct, so we can plug them in to be sure it's going to work. If I'm going to sell 63,000 tickets, remember $60 a person, this will generate $378,000 in revenue. My variable cost, remember, I can't just come up with any number for variable cost. My variable cost is based on the number of tickets that I actually sell. It's $24 a person, okay? But the more people who come through my park, the more my costs are going to be. So 63,000 people coming through the park at $24 a person means my variable cost will be $151,200. Okay, that told us that our fixed costs are $226,800. So if I take sales less variable cost less fixed cost, my target profit 0. Okay, so this is our proof that what we have done is correct. We can break even here. If we take this one step further, okay, can we calculate break even using the contribution margin ratio? Certainly. And so in this case, if we want to calculate break even using sales dollars, how many sales dollars do I need to break even? Then I need contribution margin ratio. Remember here, we divided by contribution margin per unit to determine the number of units that I need to break even. But if I want to calculate break even in sales dollars, then I'm going to divide by contribution margin ratio. How do I get contribution margin ratio? Very similar to how we would calculate gross profit margin ratio. It is simply our contribution margin per ticket divided by our price per ticket. So my contribution margin ratio is 60%. 60% divided into my total cost of $226,800. We have 0 for target profit, even though it's fallen off our list here. I calculate $378,000 in sales dollars that I need to break even. Have we seen that somewhere before? Yes. Let's scoot back up. If I know the units, 6,300 units, and I know sales price per unit, then I can calculate sales dollars for break even right here. Okay, but sometimes all of that information is not available to us, and the only way that I can get to those sales dollars is by dividing by contribution margin ratio. So you need to become familiar with both formulas. To calculate break even in sales dollars, divide by contribution margin ratio. To calculate break even in units, divide by contribution margin per unit.